Super Bowl 52 champion Bryan Braman has died.
Philadelphia Eagles are mourning the death of former linebacker Bryan Braman, who died from a rare form of cancer.
The Houston community and Texans fans are mourning the loss of the team's former fan favorite, Bryan Braman.
Bryan Braman's death has shocked the NFL, but behind his tragic death is an equally tragic life. From being abandoned by his father at a young age.
Because I didn't have much of a father figure or a mentor that I needed when I was a child. You know, my grandfather did a great job of stepping in.
To battling addiction, living on the streets, and even being arrested for manufacturing drugs in his home. Let me break it down. Bryan Braman's last fight against cancer.
Rest in peace to Bryan Braman. I'll be praying for his family, his daughters, and everybody close to him. He had a rare, aggressive form of cancer, is how it was worded. He was 38 years old, and his agent confirmed that he passed away.
In the quiet corridors of a hospital in Spokane, Washington on July 17, 2025, the football world lost one of its most resilient warriors. Bryan Allen Braman, the fearless Philadelphia Eagles linebacker who had overcome homelessness, addiction, and countless obstacles to reach the pinnacle of professional football, took his final breath at just 38 years old, surrounded by the very people who had supported him through his most challenging battle yet. The news hit the NFL community like a thunderbolt. Sean Stellato, Braman's longtime agent and friend, confirmed the devastating news in an emotional statement. Bryan Braman was a warrior in every sense, on the field and in life, facing every battle with unshakable grit and heart. His passing leaves a void not just in football, but in the spirit of every underdog who ever dared to fight. But this wasn't just another tragic sports story. This was the culmination of a life that had been defined by struggle, perseverance, and an indomitable spirit that refused to be broken, even in the face of the most formidable opponent he would ever encounter. The battle had begun just 5 months earlier, in February 2025, when Braman received the devastating diagnosis that would change everything. He was diagnosed with what medical reports described as a rare and aggressive form of cancer, with some sources specifically identifying it as brain cancer, though the complexity of his treatment suggested the disease may have been even more challenging to categorize and treat. What followed was a medical journey that would test every ounce of the resilience that had carried Braman from the streets of Spokane to the bright lights of Super Bowl 52. He underwent an intensive 12-week treatment program in Seattle, which included multiple surgical procedures and cutting-edge CAR T-cell therapy, a sophisticated form of immunotherapy where doctors reprogram a patient's own T-cells to target and destroy cancer cells. The treatment was as grueling as any training regimen Braman had ever endured. According to updates posted on a GoFundMe page organized to help cover his medical expenses, initially there was hope. The mass began to shrink under the aggressive treatment, but cancer, like the most cunning opponent on any football field, adapted and fought back with a vengeance. The disease proved to be as relentless as Braman himself had been on special teams. As the treatments progressed, his immune system became compromised, making recovery from the multiple surgeries increasingly difficult. The cancer began to spread exponentially, growing around vital organs and severely limiting the chemotherapy options available to his medical team. Throughout this ordeal, Braman was never alone. His two young daughters, Blakely, 11, and Marlo, 8, remained by his side, providing the motivation that had always driven him to push beyond what seemed possible. His mother, Tina Brahmanfield, the woman who had raised him as a single parent through poverty and homelessness, became his primary caregiver, managing not just his medical needs, but also the public updates and fundraising efforts that would help sustain him through his final months. The financial burden of fighting such an aggressive cancer was staggering. The GoFundMe campaign, initially set with a modest goal of $25,000, would eventually raise over $88,000, a testament to the impact Braman had made throughout his life and career. The largest single donation came from his former Houston Texans teammate, J.J. Watt, who contributed $10,000, demonstrating the brotherhood that extends far beyond the football field. Other former teammates also stepped up, with Dwayne Brown donating $2,500 and Brian Cushing contributing $1,000. Former Eagles teammates Rasul Douglas, Brent Selleck, and Emmanuel Acho each donated $1,000, showing that the bonds forged in pursuit of a championship transcend the game itself. The fundraising page painted a stark picture of the reality facing Braman and his family. Beyond the astronomical medical costs, they faced daily expenses that many wouldn't consider. Over $100 per day for motels near the treatment facility, expensive dietary requirements including protein drinks and fresh juices, and the need for 24-hour caregiving that insurance wouldn't cover. The page revealed the heartbreaking reality. He has no home currently, as he has had to pay out of pocket for much of his treatment, and even sold his last vehicle to raise the money for the motel this week. This was a man who had earned approximately $4.7 million during his NFL career, yet the cost of fighting for his life had stripped away nearly everything he had built. As spring turned to summer in 2025, it became increasingly clear that even Braman's legendary toughness might not be enough. By June, updates indicated that the cancer had grown exponentially faster than expected, spreading around vital organs and limiting treatment options. The disease that had initially responded to treatment was now proving to be as unpredictable and aggressive as any opponent Braman had ever faced. Yet even in his darkest hours, those who knew him best spoke of his unwavering determination. Sean Stellato, reflecting on Braman's character during this period, said, "Circumstances don't really define a person, they reveal them." And I think that statement goes to really the mantra of Bryan Braman's journey. According to Stellato, Braman spent his final 2 weeks surrounded by his daughters, creating precious final memories with the two people who meant more to him than any touchdown, any tackle, or any championship ring. He had once described his daughters, along with his NFL career and Super Bowl victory, as the 3 greatest accomplishments in my life. The end came on a Thursday morning in July, in the same city where his remarkable journey had begun 38 years earlier. Stellato received the devastating news from one of Braman's closest friends. He took his last breath while surrounded by friends and family at a hospital in Spokane, Washington. The tributes that followed painted a picture of a man whose impact extended far beyond the football field. J.J. Watt's simple but profound tribute on social media captured the sentiment of many. "Rest in peace, brother. Gone far too soon." Emmanuel Acho, his former Eagles teammate, wrote with characteristic eloquence, "I didn't intend on crying this morning. Then I read the news on my teammate Bryan Braman. Love you, Braman. You lived a hard life and you never complained about it. A champion in life and a warrior in death." The Philadelphia Eagles organization issued a statement that captured the essence of who Braman was. During his 4 seasons in Philadelphia, Bryan was a loyal teammate, a supporter of the community, and a valuable member of our Super Bowl 52 winning team. More importantly, he was a devoted father who passionately loved his family and everyone around him. The Houston Texans, where Braman had begun his NFL journey, also paid their respects. We are deeply saddened to hear about the passing of Bryan Braman. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Braman family during this difficult time. But perhaps the most fitting tribute came from his agent and friend, Sean Stellato, who had watched Braman's journey from the very beginning. "Bryan, people saw this enormous human being, but his heart was big as his body. His spirit was so motivating. He was so real and genuine with everybody. That made him special. It's hard. I feel like I lost my firstborn. This kid, he gave me his bed every time I came to Philadelphia. He would threaten me if I didn't stay with him. That's something I'll always cherish." Yet even in death, Braman's story continues to inspire. From the poverty of Spokane's Hilliard neighborhood to the glory of Super Bowl 52, this is Bryan Braman's story, against all odds. To understand the full magnitude of Bryan Braman's impact, we must journey back to where it all began, in the economically challenged Hilliard neighborhood of Spokane, Washington, where a boy who would one day hold a Super Bowl championship ring first learned that life rarely gives you anything without a fight. Born on May 4th, 1987, Bryan Allen Braman entered a world that seemed designed to test his resolve from the very beginning. His early life was marked by the kind of economic hardship that shapes character in ways both beautiful and brutal. Raised by his single mother, Tina Braman Fields, Bryan grew up in a family that faced frequent moves between Hilliard, Cheney, and Spokane's North Side due to rent increases, often resulting in homelessness. Sometimes they slept on couches, other times in his mother's Buick LeSabre, a reality that would become the foundation of a resilience that would serve him throughout his life. But within this challenging environment, Braman had access to something invaluable, a mother who refused to let circumstances define her son's future. Tina Braman Fields was an elite high school sprinter, part of a state champion track team in 1986, and held the 100-meter school record, providing a model of athletic excellence and competitive drive. His maternal grandfather, Ivan Cecil Braman, stood at an imposing 7 feet 4 inches and weighed 365 pounds, contributing to Braman's genetic athletic potential. The absence of his father created an emotional void that would influence Braman's development in profound ways.
Because I didn't have much of a father figure or a mentor that I needed when I was a child. You know, my grandfather did a great job of stepping in. And
this absence, combined with the family's financial struggles, created a hunger for stability and success that would drive Braman throughout his life. At Shadle Park High School, Braman was among nearly 100 homeless students. Yet it was here that he began to discover the athletic gifts that would eventually change his life. Standing at 6'5" and 230 pounds, he was close to Olympic qualifying standards in track and field, being just half a second slower and 2.5 inches off the marks in the 100 meters and high jump. His track and field coach, Ivan Corley, who also grew up without a father, became a significant mentor, recognizing Braman's raw talent and acting as a father figure. In football, Braman was initially described by freshman coach Tim Gaby as a tall, lanky kid hunched over, looking kind of like a lost soul, wearing a cut-off Fila tee. But despite this uncertain beginning, he found community and purpose in sports, winning regional titles in high jump, long jump, javelin, and the 4x100 relay. However, academic issues prevented Braman from securing securing track scholarships, leading him to focus on football. This redirection would prove pivotal, though the road ahead would be anything but smooth. His first attempt at college, at the University of Idaho, ended in failure when he lost a $100,000 scholarship after only 2 semesters without playing. The loss of this opportunity sent him into what he later described as a period of severe depression and hopelessness. Dropping to 160 pounds from around 260, he found himself homeless once again, this time sleeping on park benches with his dog Doja. During this dark period, Braman worked 15-hour days at CXT, a concrete factory, for near minimum wage, describing the work as back-breaking labor for $10 an hour. His high school counselor noted he was haunted, a sentiment compounded by the deaths of his fraternal grandfather from cancer and another grandfather 5 years earlier. It was during this lowest point that Braman faced what would become a defining moment in his life. A drug addiction had begun to consume him, and as he later recounted, there came a pivotal moment after a 2-day bender when he woke up and realized that his friends were all sitting around watching the Super Bowl. It hit me at that moment. All these people that are watching this game know what I wanted to do, that I've always had a dream to be a professional athlete, that I wanted to be an NFL player. That's when I had to sit and think like, okay, these people aren't going to help me get to where I want to be, and I couldn't associate myself with them anymore. This moment of clarity became the catalyst for transformation. The intervention of his high school counselor, Anthony Juju Predisic, proved crucial and helped Braman shift his mindset within just 3 days. This guidance led Braman to enroll at Long Beach City College, where his life began to change dramatically. There, he earned first-team Southern California Football Association All-Southern Conference accolades in 2007 and 2008. From Long Beach, Braman transferred to West Texas A&M University, where he continued to excel, earning all Lone Star Conference honors and helping the team win the 2009 Lone Star Conference South Championship. However, his senior season was interrupted by a legal issue that would test his character once more. In October 2010, Braman was charged with manufacturing psilocybin, a hallucinogenic substance found in mushrooms, a state jail felony. The incident occurred at his leased house in Canyon, Texas, and involved other individuals. He turned himself in on October 5th, 2010, and was released on a $5,000 bond. The case was resolved in June 2011 when Braman pleaded guilty, received 1 year of deferred adjudication, paid a $2,000 fine, and had the case dismissed after 30 days. This legal trouble, while serious, would not prevent him from achieving his NFL dreams, suggesting his ability to learn from mistakes and demonstrate growth to professional scouts. Despite going undrafted in the 2011 NFL Draft, Braman's journey caught the attention of Bobby King, a former assistant who had coached him at West Texas A&M before joining Wade Phillips' staff in Dallas. King recommended Braman to the Houston Texans, leading to his signing as an undrafted free agent. His path to the NFL had been anything but conventional. Before general manager Rick Smith offered him a contract, Braman had worked for Abercrombie & Fitch, modeled, attended casting calls, and worked as a bouncer in Amarillo and College Station. He even disclosed that he kept his dreadlocks that were cut by teammates at West Texas in a plastic bag, a quirky detail that illustrated his sentimental nature beneath the tough exterior. King's belief in Braman proved prescient, as Braman later reflected. "I feel very blessed I'm able to show people what happened wasn't me, that it's in the past, and I'm happy to be able to move on." The transition to the NFL was not without its challenges. Braman quickly realized that with the lineup of players the Texans had in front of him, Mario Williams, Connor Barwin, DeMeco Ryans, and Brian Cushing, his biggest chance of making the active roster would be on special teams.
I came in 2011 to the Houston Texans, and the lineup of guys that they had in front of me, I knew that I wasn't going to make the roster, and I knew my biggest chance of making that active roster was going to be on special teams.
This realization led Braman to embrace a role that many players merely tolerate. Special teams became his calling card, and he approached it with a philosophy that was as intense as it was effective. This fearless approach quickly made him a fan favorite. In the 2011 season finale against the Tennessee Titans, he made a tackle on punt returner Mark Mariani, despite losing his helmet during the play, a moment that perfectly encapsulated his relentless style and went viral before viral was even a thing in sports. In 2012, Braman was named a Pro Bowl alternate, recognition for his impact on special teams. That same year, he blocked multiple punts, including one for a touchdown against the Indianapolis Colts, setting a team record. Over his 3 seasons with the Texans, 2011 to 2013, Braman appeared in 46 games, recording 34 tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 2 fumble recoveries. But his impact extended far beyond statistics. He had become the embodiment of the underdog spirit, proof that determination and work ethic could overcome talent disparities. In 2014, Braman signed a 2-year, $3.15 million contract with the Philadelphia Eagles, bringing his unique brand of intensity to a city that appreciated blue-collar work ethic. The Eagles quickly realized they had acquired something special, as he became the catalyst for 4 blocked punts in 2014, 3 of which were returned for touchdowns. Even during this period of professional success, Braman never forgot his roots or the struggles that had shaped him.
Yeah, I come from Spokane, Washington, born born and raised, spent 18 years there. My mom did everything she could as a single mother, make sure I had everything I needed in order to pursue every opportunity that may have been presented, and she didn't want there to be any excuse as to why I wasn't able to take full advantage of it.
In August 2017, Braman briefly signed with the New Orleans Saints, but was placed on injured reserve and released within weeks. Many thought his NFL career was over, but fate had other plans. On December 12, 2017, the Philadelphia Eagles re-signed him, bringing him back for what would become the most memorable chapter of his football journey, as it became one of the most improbable championship runs in NFL history, the ultimate underdog story. The story of Bryan Braman's journey to Super Bowl glory is inseparable from the larger narrative of the 2017 Philadelphia Eagles, a team that seemed to embody everything Braman represented: resilience in the face of adversity, unity in the face of doubt, and an unwavering belief that underdogs could indeed have their day. The 2017 season had been a roller coaster for the Eagles, finishing with a 13-3 record that tied their 2004 season for the most wins in franchise history. They had clinched the NFC East title for the first time since 2013, secured a first-round bye for the first time in 13 years, and earned home field advantage throughout the playoffs for the first time since 2004. But the loss of Carson Wentz had changed everything. The quarterback who had been in MVP contention was now watching from the sidelines as Nick Foles, a quarterback who had nearly retired from football just years earlier, was tasked with leading the team to its first Super Bowl victory. For Braman, being back in Philadelphia represented more than just another opportunity. It was a chance at redemption, a final shot at the dream that had sustained him through homelessness, addiction, and countless setbacks. At 30 years old, he understood that time was running out, and he approached every practice, every meeting, every play with the intensity of someone who knew this might be his last chance. Following their crucial divisional round victory over Atlanta, the Eagles dominated the Minnesota Vikings 38-7 in the NFC Championship game, setting up a Super Bowl matchup against the New England Patriots, a team led by Tom Brady and Bill Belichick that had appeared in 7 of the previous 16 Super Bowls. The Eagles won Super Bowl 52 by a score of 41-33, ending the franchise's 57-year championship drought and making the NFC East the first division where every team had won a Super Bowl. For Braman, holding that Lombardi trophy represented more than just a professional achievement. It was validation of every struggle, every setback, every moment when giving up would have been easier. The image of Braman celebrating with his young daughters, Blakely and Marlo, after the game became one of the most enduring pictures from that magical night. He had once described his NFL career, his Super Bowl victory, and his daughters as the 3 greatest accomplishments in my life, and in that moment, all 3 came together in perfect harmony. The Super Bowl victory would prove to be Braman's final NFL game, as he was not re-signed by the Eagles for the 2018 season. But what a way to go out, as a champion, surrounded by teammates who had become brothers, having contributed to one of the most improbable championship runs in sports history. In retirement, Braman remained connected to the game and to the communities that had shaped him. He focused on family and gave back to his Texas community through youth coaching and outreach programs. His career earnings were estimated at over $4.7 million, providing financial security for his family. But Braman's true wealth lay in the relationships he had built and the lives he had touched throughout his journey. The breadth of Braman's interests and talents extended far beyond football. His brief modeling career, his interest in fashion, and his charismatic personality made him a natural for media appearances and community engagement. He had expressed interest in pursuing acting after his football career, understanding that athletes have a limited window to compete, but unlimited opportunities to impact others.
I'd love to be an actor, now that my football career is actually coming to an end.
There were even comparisons drawn between Braman and actor Jason Momoa due to their similar physical appearance, with Braman embracing the comparison good-naturedly. When asked how often people mistake him for Momoa, perhaps most importantly,
tell me how many times people tell you you look like Jason Momoa, player?
On a daily basis, every day.
How many people try to do pictures with you? Give me a real number.
Man. If I had $1 for every one, I'd be a million. I wouldn't even have to play in the league anymore.
Braman had found his greatest source of happiness and motivation in fatherhood. His devotion to his daughters, Blakely and Marlo, was evident to everyone who knew him.
First off, I'm a father. I have 2 beautiful daughters, Blakely and Marlo. Fatherhood is probably the most challenging thing, but most satisfying thing I've done to date.
The depth of his love for his daughters was perhaps best captured in his reflection on what he hoped to provide for them. I'm happy to know that my kids can eat, that they don't have to be hungry. Dad went through all the pain and suffering so that they didn't have to. This desire to break the cycle of poverty and struggle that had defined his own childhood became one of Braman's driving motivations. He understood that his success on the football field was ultimately meaningful only if it could provide opportunities and stability for the next generation. The tragic irony of Braman's story is that a man who who had overcome every obstacle life could throw at him. Poverty, homelessness, addiction, academic failure, legal troubles would ultimately be defeated by an enemy that couldn't be tackled or blocked. But even in facing his final battle with cancer, Braman demonstrated the same characteristics that had defined his entire life: courage, determination, and an unwavering love for his family. Sean Stellato, reflecting on what made Braman special, captured the essence of his character. I would say a warrior in every sense on the field and in life. He faced every battle with unshakable grit and heart, and his passing really leaves a void, not only in the football community, but in the spirit of really every underdog who ever had to fight to play this game of football. The story of Bryan Braman is ultimately not a tragedy, despite its heartbreaking conclusion. From the homeless teenager sleeping in his mother's car to the Super Bowl champion holding his daughters on the field in Minneapolis, Braman's journey reminds us that our circumstances need not define our destiny. His legacy lives on not just in the record books or highlight reels, but in the countless young people who can look at his story and understand that no dream is too big, no obstacle too great if you're willing to fight for what you believe in. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.